title screen, National Park Service Arrowhead logo, Appomattox Court House National Historical Park. Freedom Day. With Ranger Chris and David, museum technician.
Hello, my name is David Woldridge, and I'm the museum technician here at Appomattox Court House, and we're coming to you today from in front of the quarters of the enslaved members of the McLean household to talk about the meaning of the events that occurred here at the McLean house on April 9th, 1865.
And my name's Chris Bingham. I'm a park guide also here at Appomattox Court House. A lot of Americans know of Appomattox as the place where Robert E. Lee surrendered his army, where the nation began a long process of reunion and reconciliation. But April 9th, 1865 was also Freedom Day here in Virginia.
Origins of Freedom Day.
Throughout the Civil War, this part of Virginia, central and southern Virginia in particular, remained solidly in Confederate control. For the enslaved people in this area, who were the majority of the population, the Union Army was nowhere nearby. The battles were being fought more than 100 miles away in most cases. So the yearning for freedom to escape to the Union lines, that was a pretty tall proposition. There were several dozen local men who do escape their enslavement and make their way to USCT, or United States Colored Troop recruiting centers, and they end up returning here on April 9th of 1865, helping to trap Lee's army and Lee to surrender. But for the majority of the enslaved population, that was simply not a reality. John Robinson, who's a local enslaved man, said that to wish that the Yankees would come and set us free, that is what we've been hoping and praying for. And that was the reality for many of the enslaved people in central Virginia. Throughout the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation was really more of a promise of eventual freedom than an absolute reality. If you could escape to the federal lines, or if the Union Army would enter your area, it could be enforced. And April 9th, 1865 is the day that the Emancipation Proclamation was actually enforced in this part of Virginia for the first time. Before that, these individuals had remained physically enslaved up until the spring of 1865. The other thing that's being enforced here on that day is the Virginia Constitution. And what I mean by that is, in March of 1864, a Unionist government in Alexandria, Virginia, had amended the Virginia Constitution to abolish the institution of slavery. And with the ending of the war, with Confederate political control of Virginia at an end, that Unionist government is now the government for Virginia. And that Constitution is in effect. That's being enforced by Grant's armies here as well. So for both of those reasons, April 9th, 1865 is definitely Freedom Day. 9-year-old Booker T. Washington, growing up on a farm in Franklin County, Virginia, a few counties from here, said this about the moment that he and his family learned about the Emancipation Proclamation being enforced because of what had happened here at Appomattox Court House. When the war closed, the day of freedom came. We were told that we were free and could go when and where we pleased. My mother leaned over and kissed her children, while tears of joy ran down her cheeks. She explained to us what it meant, that this was the day for which she had been so long praying, but fearing that she would never live to see.
Legacy of Freedom Day.
The legacy of the importance of the surrender and the emancipation that it produced was felt among the African American community here in the town of Appomattox Court House in Appomattox County, where immediately upon Lee's surrender, 4,600 citizens who had been formerly enslaved began to know what freedom was like. All throughout the nation, Appomattox became a touchstone for African American communities. Here locally, local churches, African American churches, would celebrate Freedom Day or Appomattox Day with a march from Appomattox Courthouse to their church, where there would be music and the beating of drums to recognize this important event. In 1891, a local citizen wrote about the African Americans who had gathered together in the streets of their city in Pamplin in Appomattox County to celebrate Freedom Day, April 9th of 1865. In the late 1800s and the early 1900s, Appomattox clubs began to spring up throughout a lot of the urban areas of the United States. These clubs were African American social clubs and fraternal organizations that sponsored notaries and dignitaries such as W.E. Du Bois and others to come and speak on topics important to them on a day that was most important to them.
About a year after Appomattox, in April of 1866, in Mecklenburg County, Virginia, a few counties south of here, there is a local group of freedmen having a festivity to remember Surrender Day, to remember Freedom Day. And they flat out say this, that if Lee had never been beaten, the Emancipation Proclamation would have been to no avail. And that really sums up the importance of this moment as Freedom Day.